Yes indeed, man. Welcome back, man, to another episode of Facts, man. I'm your host, Edel, aka Mr. Facts. And today's show, man, it's gonna be a great show, man. I got a great topic that I want to talk about today, and I'm sure it's a lot of people out there that want to talk about this as well. But look, today I'm directing it. I know a lot of people like to come at me and say, you always talking about the community, this, that, and third. No, I'm talking about individuals. So I got a question today. I got a guest on that's going to help me talk about the topic. And I want to talk about, why black people see other black people as a sellout when they are trying to improve their lives or when they're trying to move into the corporate world. So today, man, I got a guest. I got my man Scott Knight on today, man, and we're going to talk about this issue. We're going to tackle this issue in the community. So, Scott, man, introduce yourself and tell the people where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having me on your podcast. I think this is an awesome topic, and I think this is a great platform that you're expressing that needs to be heard within our community. But I'm coming to you live and direct from Atlanta, Georgia, West Side.
Okay. So look, man, I'm posing this question today, Scott, because I had an incident myself. I had a few incidents actually in the past few weeks where I had other black people telling me that you're trying to dress like a white man, you're trying to act like a white man now that you're trying to move into a corporate office or you're trying to move up into a different position, and that's what made me think about this, man. And because I was like, damn, I mean, like, why would they feel like this? Look, can you explain like why people feel like that, or why that mentality even exists in the community like that?
Well, first and foremost, you're dealing with a multifaceted issue. It's not just the idea or the principle of you trying to advance yourself or you trying to better your life circumstances. Your coworkers, they're coming at you really from a personal level because it's an assassination character on the way you dress, the way you present yourself. That appears to be a problem. So that's on a personal level. Then the idea of, well, you're trying to go, advance on the corporate side of things. Now they're looking at you from a threat standpoint. So you really have to kind of look at this whole thing through multiple lenses. Unfortunately, within our community, there's always been, and I feel like there will always be, this inferiority complex or this intimidated or intimidation complex that a lot of people have. What you're presenting to them is something that they themselves can't model or they can't present. So that's a problem. What you're presenting to the outward world is, here I am, a young man who's trying to better myself and advance my position in life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with what you're doing or how you're doing it. Now, if you were going about your day-to-day job and you were intentionally inflicting harm or presenting barriers to prevent others from advancement in their respective field or career in the workplace, then you would be a sellout. Then you would be the Uncle Tom. Then you would be in a situation that should be unforgivable. But you're not doing any of those things. You're just a guy trying to better himself. You're presenting yourself properly with the proper attire that the workplace mandates, that the job and the job description require you to have.
Right.
You've done nothing wrong.
And look, and that's how I'm feeling, because it's almost like I'm to the point where I'm feeling guilty for trying to advance in life. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, look, because people know the struggle where I came from, and there's people that had it worse than I had it. But I guess they feel like I should keep it real. Okay, go ahead.
In keeping it real, you got to keep it real with yourself first.
Right.
You owe nothing to anyone other than yourself and your family and your children specifically. Now, in keeping it real, just being brutally honest,
okay,
you've done nothing wrong. You're suffering from the same thing that a lot of athletes and entertainers or anybody who has really achieved any level of status or wealth. You have like a survivor's guilt complex where it's like, man,
Oh man.
I feel guilty because of my own success. No, you should never feel guilty of your own success because your success today is predicated on years of preparation, years of training, years of education to get you to the point that you are today. You didn't get to where you are today because of something you did yesterday.
Right.
You have taken all of the necessary steps. You've paid the price, you've paid the proper dues, and you've given the proper respect. So no, you should not have any remorse or any guilt because you're successful.
Right.
That's merely them blame. Like it's almost like blaming the victim. It's your fault. It's your fault this happened to you. How is it? How are you the victim because you're successful? Now you can't enjoy your position. You can't enjoy the fruits of your labor, which should be the ultimate goal for anyone.
Right.
But instead of us coming together as a community and saying, we celebrate you, we want to enhance your position, and we want to present you to the world as a representative of our community, it's easier to tear you down because fundamentally, if you're in the lower rung of society, and if you're down here with us, and if you're miserable like I'm miserable, then I'm happy. Because unfortunately, people are just not. They're just not happy for your success.
Right.
They're just not going to be because it's rooted in jealousy and envy. Point blank. Period.
I agree with that. So look, to people that is feeling that way and that have that feeling, you know, and it's all we know it's for a reason. But like, what advice or look, what response could I have that would not be like exactly me coming off as smart ass or me coming off such as I'm better than you, but coming off. Give me some advice on how I can come back when someone says this, not just in the workplace, because look, I heard this in my own community from people that's in my community. I've literally heard them say this because I'm dressing with a nice button-up shirt, some jeans, and some dress shoes to go to work in now, that I'm trying to be a white guy. Like, what should I say to them to not offend them, but to educate them? Like, how could I, give me some advice on that.
All right, first of all, a person has to want to be educated, because if you're dealing with a person who has a closed mind, no matter what you present to them, they're not going to have understanding. So what you're trying to do right now is rationalize a irrational situation. That's not possible. First and foremost.
Okay.
So my advice to you, the first thing I would say is, you, sir, have to first stop being so concerned with what other people have to say about you. Because unless it is specifically impacting your financial situation or your living condition, then everyone is entitled to their opinion. So if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. Accept it and let that roll off your back and keep going, because you don't owe anyone an explanation, right? But you should let your work speak for you.
Right.
Let your work drive and your work ethic be the example that you set, because I promise you, you, sir, are like a space shuttle. And the one thing a space shuttle doesn't have is a rear view mirror. So you need to stop looking behind you and worrying about what these folks got to talk and say. And you need to focus on what's in front of you.
Right.
You need to focus on where you're trying to go, because as you advance, guess what? You're going to change. You're going to change your attitude. You're going to change your mindset. You're going to change your address. You're going to change the circle of friends around you.
Right.
So as you progress, change alters everything. And before you know it, that circle of friends, that community of people will no longer be within reach.
Hey, look, I feel go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say, just continue doing what you're doing and just stay true to who you are.
Right.
Because you've done nothing wrong, and you, sir, have not hindered anyone else, because your advancement has not caused harm or destruction to anyone.
Right.
So you should never feel sorry, or you should never feel bad for that. You have nothing to apologize for.
Look, I feel like I'm in a therapist session. Look, hold up. Let me ask you this, and I know people gonna laugh because I like to inject a little funny. Look, I'm going to Wake Tech and graduate from a small school over here at Wake Tech County in Raleigh. What college did you go to? Because man, listen, you are presenting. You sound very educated.
I'm a graduate of the University of South Carolina. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, but it does not matter. And one of the things I want you to start doing moving forward, never refer to any institution of higher education or learning as a small school. Okay. Whatever school you went to gave you a wealth of knowledge. Whatever school you went to gave you a academic background that you can now fundamentally stand on as a educated black man.
Right.
So never, don't belittle your situation. Never take away from your situation. I don't care if you got your degree online. As long as you are applying that education towards bettering yourself, then you are better for it. Point blank, period.
Right. So I'm just saying, man, the crab in the barrel mentality, man, is here, is real, it's alive, and the way that you're explaining it to me, look, you actually are helping me to move forward in my life. Because look, I never lacked confidence, but that right there just clarifies like what I believe, that look, I should just look forward to excelling in my life, and and just kind of put everyone else in the rear view, and stop trying to help everyone.
Well, no, I'm not. I would never advocate for you to stop helping anyone. You should always try to help those that are in need of help, and for those that want to receive your help. Okay. Always be giving. Charity is something that should be done on a regular and continuous basis.
Right.
But if you know that these are crabs in a barrel, and you know what you're dealing with, you, sir, need to learn how to recognize these people for who they are, accept them for what they are, and move on. Because if you know that this is that group of people, and I know that this guy has nothing positive to say, all you got to do is go left, man. Start avoiding that. Right. Michelle Obama told you best, man. You got to go high when they go low.
Ooh,
because if you allow yourself, because if you allow yourself to dumb down, because that's what you'll be doing. If you allow yourself to dumb down to deal with them on such a remedial level, then that takes away from who you are. You're not being true to yourself.
Right. Well, you know what, at least I'm just happy to say that I'm glad I'm the person that doesn't follow or listen or go along to get along. Right. So that has helped me tremendously and moving forward and trying to just put the pieces of my own life together. You know what I'm saying? So,
That's it.
But because I only wanted to have this conversation because, look, I wanted people to understand that, look, you don't have to have the crab in the barrel mentality. You know what I'm saying? You can get up and you can do for yourself. My thing has always been, look, I feel I got to put in the work. I know if I want to be successful, and it may not happen immediately, but I want to be successful, so I have to get up, I have to put in the work, I have to put in the time, and the process it's not fun. And there are days that I feel like quitting or giving up, but I don't, because I know that I can view or visualize what I can be. You know what I'm saying? What I can become.
Correct.
And what I can be to not only to God or my family, but to my community. You know what I'm saying? That pushes me and propels me to continue to move forward, so,
That's right.
And
well, I think you have the right perspective on that note, but you have to get up. You have to continue to keep forward progression. You have to maintain your momentum. Life is not going to simply come tomorrow and everything is fine. Mm-hmm. There are going to be pitfalls. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be defeats.
Right.
But you got to maintain a positive attitude and have a good outlook and perspective on what it is you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
You're already successful.
Right.
If you were an individual wallowing in ignorance, if you were an individual wallowing in self-pity and misery, that's defeat. Then you've allowed the system, you've allowed society to beat you down.
Right.
You get up every day, you've educated yourself, you've gone to work, you've advanced. So there are other people that are now invested in you. Right. Understand that your career advancement isn't simply about, hey, I got a new job, but it's indicative of the fact that the people that you work for have recognized you. They've noticed you, and they realize that you have talents that were far beyond the station of the employment position that you previously held. So they promoted you. So you're successful already.
Right.
You just need to maintain what you're doing.
Right. That is dope, man, what you're saying. That is dope, man, and it resonates. Every bit of what you're saying resonates with me, and it makes me feel good to know that, look, even for myself, I know I could have been recognized, but it do feel, when I was younger, growing up, but now it does feel great to be recognized. It feels like that, look, I'm placed, someone wants to place me in a position where they're willing to help me because they see what I can provide or what an asset I could become to the company. So
there you go.
So I look, I feel proud every day. Every day I'm driving to work. Every day I'm driving home. I feel proud, so, but look, but I didn't, cause like I said, I had a couple people, say these things to me, so, and for me, they weren't hurtful or anything. It's just that I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't have to explain. I shouldn't have to explain why I want to be successful or why I dress the way I dress, because I do agree with you. Said, look, that position calls for another type of dress code.
Well, here's the thing: instead of saying you shouldn't have to explain, you should be saying I'm not going to explain.
Right.
Because if he or she does not understand, then you don't need to have a conversation with them to begin with.
Right.
And you're right. We all want accolades. We all want to feel like we've been recognized and appreciated.
Right.
That's just human nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to work only for the accolade,
right,
then you're not going to work for the love of the job.
Right.
If you have a passion for what you're doing,
right,
and you're passionate about your work,
right,
and more importantly, if you're passionate about bettering yourself,
right,
every day you should want to try to be a better version of what you were.
Right.
Self-examination would show you what mistakes you've made, and moving forward, how to maneuver so those mistakes don't happen again. Right. But man, listen, you, sir, are doing what you're supposed to be doing. There are other people that are now invested in you financially through your employment, because I'm confident you're making more money than you were before. So that goes to show that someone is taking note, but they're also investing in your potential, because it's not just, oh my gosh, we want to promote him to this position because that's the end all be all.
I'm still feeling poor though.
But it's coming. But feeling poor and being rich in substance is two different things.
Right.
We all are going to feel poor, but that's just the way of life. We live in a capitalistic society. The more money you make, the more money you're going to spend, the more that you're going to want. That's just the way of the world.
Right.
But I'm just saying to you, sir, you are doing a fantastic job, and you're an excellent representation of the black community.
Well, you know what? That's my goal. I wanted to change. And that was the whole thing about doing the podcast, because my son was shot. And look, when I get off the air with you, I'll be doing another show about community violence. You know what I'm saying? Someone will be here to tell their story about, basically her daughter being killed due to gun violence and things like that. So turning the page on that a little bit, just getting off of that a little bit. How do you feel about some of the community violence that you're seeing? I mean, it seems to be that it's amped up like really hard. I'm seeing videos and news clippings every day about community violence. How do you view that?
Well, first and foremost, it's disheartening, because as a community, we can all do better. Violence is a choice. Violence is a choice. You choose to go out and you choose to participate in violent acts against people and or property.
Right.
And that's just wrong, right?
Right.
But you must understand one of the key components when you look at the individual, statistically speaking.
Right.
Education plays a huge part. We've got to do a better job of educating our people. We've got to do a better job of loving our people and reassuring ourselves, because right now there's a fundamental lack for morality. There's a fundamental lack of appreciation for morality.
Right.
So these young kids oftentimes just don't value life in the same way that you or I value a life. All life is valuable.
Yeah, you're right, man, and it is disheartening, and to see these children and these kids kill each other due to gun violence is I'm just like growing up. I've seen gun violence before or been around it, but not like this. I've never seen anything like this from children.
But the difference is violence has always existed. Violence has been a part of civilization from its conception. But in today's time, with the technology and the advancement that we've had with technology in terms of presenting information almost instantaneously, the landscape is totally different from when you or I were a child. The internet has changed everything.
Yep,
there's so much information out there, and there's so much information that is readily and easily accessible. Whereas when you were growing up, you didn't have access to the information. But that doesn't mean there wasn't violence going on.
Right.
That just means it wasn't being recorded and reported as it is today. Everyone has a cell phone. There was a time in your lifetime when very few people or select individuals had a cell phone.
That's correct.
Right? Whereas now you have children maneuvering with cell phones as fluently as an adult who's had a cell phone for the last 20 years.
Right.
So you kind of got to keep it in perspective. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot that's being displayed and shown.
Right.
But it starts in the home. We've got to start loving ourselves.
Right.
We have to, because if you can't love yourself, how do you appreciate the life of someone else? And that's what makes it so easy, because these kids are numb.
Man.
They're taking lives without any regret, without any remorse.
Right. And I, you know what? And I say, we have to, and I always tell people we have to learn to break chains, right? Because I told someone the other day, if I do what my dad did and my son do what I did, I mean, we're not breaking chains. We're creating generational curses. You know what?
But could you imagine if the average child in the inner city had the same love and respect for you or your children as they do, I don't know, for their favorite sports player, for their favorite athlete? Well, I mean, could you imagine if the same love if that same type of love was reciprocated unilaterally and universally across the board? Could you imagine? Our whole community would be completely different.
I agree with you.
Just stop and think about that for a second.
Right. Right. So, and that's what I talk about, man. I always talk about education as well, man, because education is important. And a lot of our community, we do need to continue to get educated, continue to teach our children, continue to be there in the home. And I know this, look, like you say, selling drugs is a choice, so you don't have to do it. Today's time, there are things out there you can be doing. I tell people, learn about logistics, learn about supply chain, learn about accounting. Look, these are infrastructures that are very important in America. This is the glue. This is the fabric. This is what holds America together. You know what I'm saying? So look, man, get into things like that.
This is true. But if the educational system, from the elementary level, the intermediate, middle school, and or high school levels, if they're not focused on presenting these things, many of these kids will go through life and never know that any of these opportunities exist. Because unfortunately for a lot of our children, they only know what they see.
Right.
And they emulate what they know. Mm-hmm. So if all they know is, Big Mike on the corner, that's who they're going to emulate, because Big Mike, he's eating good food, he's dressing nice, he has a nice car. It's not the concept of the fact that he sells drugs is not the point. The point is Big Mike is surviving and thriving in a community where many people are starving. So those starving people are going to look to him for guidance, because he now becomes the benchmark, because he symbolizes success.
Right. Look, now I took a little beating from some people on social media earlier this week. I posted a picture of my neighborhood with the cameras in it, and I was talking about, we had never been able to enjoy the comforts of our own home in these areas. I took a little beating for it, because a lot of the people in that community, which they are right, I was telling them, look, all answers are correct. They make up the whole story, the whole picture. Yeah, we do have community violence where we commit these killing, gun violence in the community and all these things. But still, we were placed in a place, you know what I'm saying, and in these areas post, Jim Crow era and all these, these times and, pre-Jim Crow era, we've always been in controlled environments, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that maybe does that play a part in the crab in the barrel mentality, or why people, the gun violence and all of these things? I mean, how do you mitigate? I mean, like, could that be a reason? I mean, what's a plausible explanation?
Well, first of all contributing factors are a reason. There is no one singular problem or one singular solution. It's a complex issue that has to be comprehensively attacked on all levels, on all fronts, at all times. We have been systematically programmed, conditioned, hoodwinked, whatever word you want to use, to hate ourselves and to hate others that look like us. So that level of disdain that we display for one another has been ingrained in us over generations, because you don't value black life. You don't value black tone, black melanin. You don't value that.
And that's what
at the same time, those same kids doing the very things that you're discussing in your neighborhood, they're not going to go across town and do that.
No.
They're not going to go into some of these suburban areas and do that.
No.
And why is that? It's because of the innate mindset that white is right.
Oh.
And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's what you're dealing with. So then when you now level up and move out of the neighborhood, are you a sellout?
Right.
You think you better than us?
Right.
Why do I have to be better than you because I want a yard that doesn't have needles and crack vials in it?
Right.
Why do I got to think I'm better than you because I want my kid to go to a park and be able to actually use the facilities in peace? I don't want to have to worry about random gunshots ringing out.
Right. Exactly.
So we got to start being really brutally honest with ourselves first and foremost, because you want to say there's a problem, but then you don't want to point out what the problem is.
Ooh.
You want to say there's an issue, but we don't want to bring in the resources to deal with those issues.
Right.
You want to say there's a problem, but you can't call the police, and if the police come, you can't say nothing. Right. I mean, it's a lose-lose mindset, and it's a closed loop of ignorance.
Right.
I'm just,
Man,
listen, if you want change, you got to put in work.
Exactly.
If you want change,
accountability,
you got to bring in the resources and accountability.
Right.
Facts.
Right. You have to bring in accountability, and I always say, man, look, I don't want people to think that I'm going to the courthouse or these asking people for anything and these things. No, I'm asking my community to hold each other accountable, and let's lift each other up and build each other up. You know what I'm saying? Because there are things that we could do to help each other. You know what I'm saying? And help our communities. You know what I'm saying? But we got to hold each other accountable. You know what I'm saying? We can't I can't, just because I know you and your mom and you next door, I can't allow you to be walking through the neighborhood, shooting up the neighborhood, doing these crazy stuff. I got to call your mom and say, hey, look, your son is over here, and she's going to have to say, hey, look, you're going to have to get in line to do this, or you can't live here. You know what I'm saying? You can't, these are things we got to start holding ourselves accountable. Or even if you don't even have to say that, but you still can just,
Well,
it's just
I
don't know how you combat this.
Let's be clear. At this point, you have the greatest level of cognitive development in your first 5 years of life. So if your parents are not instilling values and quality in you from day one, then you're not going to have them once you become an adult.
Right.
Because now that same young man who's walking through your neighborhood, shooting up the neighborhood, his mindset is already hardened. He is who he is. His character has already been molded and shaped. See, it starts not just, oh, that's my son or my daughter, but you got to be a parent.
Right.
Anybody can have a child, but you got to parent these children.
Right.
You've got to instill values, and you've also got to have disciplinary corrective measures in place throughout the course of their life. Can't allow these kids just to do and say what they want.
Right, exactly. So, I just don't know about the community violence, man, or any of that, man. I don't have any answers. Look, I'm willing to listen to anybody. I'm willing to let anybody come on and say, hey, look, this is what we can try. I just think it's worth the conversation. I think I value my life enough. I value my community's life, my family's life enough to say, look, let's conversate about it. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to be mature when we're discussing these issues. So, we be able to remain civil when we're doing these. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the one of the biggest conversations I hope that you'll have is, why is it that others don't value your life and the life of your family the same way that you do?
Wow.
What has been lost in translation that will allow another man that looks like me to devalue my life or to deem my life unworthy and therefore take my life?
That's a good question. That's definitely a good question. And maybe I will ask that question. So, cause that, look, that, I don't know if most people probably would be able to answer it.
Because what kills me is when you hear people say, oh, well, this innocent child was killed by a stray bullet. Right. There's no such thing as a stray bullet. He intended to pull that trigger.
Right.
There's no strays.
Right.
Every bullet, a bullet does not leave that gun that you did not intend for it to leave.
Right.
The question is,
it may not hit the right target.
Why did you?
Yeah.
Exactly. But he intended to shoot. So the question becomes, what is it that you can see someone that looks just like you and just say, with no remorse, no nothing.
Right.
That's what's unfortunate.
Right.
The penitentiary is full of unremorseful, unrepentant young men and women that have committed heinous acts of violence against their community, their family, their friends, and their neighbors.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
For senselessness.
Yeah,
for nothing.
I agree with you. I agree, man, and it's terrible. So I just look, you know what? I just value my life, and I value my community's life, and I just wanted to educate them, man. I just wanted to give them something, and I like to motivate them through these conversations. And I like to keep it real with these conversations. That's why I'm glad I had you on, Scott, because you could pretty much keep it real all the time. You know what I'm saying? You always gonna give, going to just tell it how it is, and give it from a different perspective.
Well, let me say this in closing. The truth is the truth no matter who tells it.
Right.
You don't have to like the truth. You don't have to agree with it, but you got to respect it because it's the truth.
Right.
That, my friend, is keeping it real.
Man.
But unfortunately, in the black community, keeping it real has gone wrong so many times.
Yeah,
and it has caused so many problems.
Yes, keeping it real don't mean pulling the trigger. We don't want to pull no triggers.
Right. Exactly. So keep things in the proper context so that nothing gets misconstrued in conversation. But You're doing what's right. You're having the conversation. And I totally and wholeheartedly respect you for that. And I'm grateful and appreciative that you had me on today.
Man, I got to have you back on some more, man. I got other topics about, look, Congresswoman Sheila Lee Jackson was arrested up there in the Capitol the other day, marching for voting rights. And I posted it to my page and everything. So, but yeah, man, it's a lot of social issues that I want to talk about and tackle, man. And you're the guy to explain a lot of it.
Well, we can clearly have those conversations, but understand it's unfortunate that the young lady was arrested. But what's even more unfortunate is that she had to protest to begin with. Right. Why are we still talking about voting rights in 2021?
Exactly. Because
it's 2021.
Because them black folks got up and voted in Georgia. That was the problem. So,
Yeah.
they got up and voted in Georgia during the presidential election, and that was it. That's just the honest truth. So.
Yeah.
That's just the brutal truth. But look, man, I was glad to have you on the show today, man. And look, I'm thankful that you came through and stopped through. And for all my viewers out there, man, I want y'all to know, man, you can do better out there with your life, man. You don't have to down someone else, man, for trying to do better with themselves and their lives, man. It's your boy, man, E-Dale, man, a.k.a. Mr. Facts, right here on another podcast. Facts, man. I'm out.
Indeed.